name it. Hey, I've done everything but use drugs, drank, and had a job. Everybody in the world commits 3 felonies a day. It's a book. You have to look it up. They committed the fraud against my business, and I spent all my money fighting the case, and I won it in the Fifth Circuit Court. And my only son was killed in Louisiana, and that's what made me move to Texas, so I have nobody to bring my kids to.
So your son, when he passed, how old was he?
17.
What was the things that might have led you to selling drugs and doing some of the things that you was doing?
My babysitter's grandson, who was way older than me, maybe about 10 or 15 years, was a drug dealer, and he was the first person I ever saw with a Mercedes. He, in return, taught me how to sell drugs because I took them penitentiary chances all them years selling drugs, and I couldn't even get a Rolex watch. Like, what the hell?
We're here for the introduction of In and Out. It's a movement to change the world. It represents all things and all of us at all times. It's about freeing ourselves of any prison.
Welcome to In and Out Podcast, where I have dope conversations with formerly imprisoned people. I am Eric Geralt, your host, and I'm joined today with my co-host, Dr. Cynthia Williams, and we're having a dope conversation with our guest, Dr. Letitia Scott Jackson. How you doing, Dr. Jackson? Dr. Scott Jackson?
Listen, I'm elated. I'm glad to be on top of the dirt. I always say that I'm grateful that the dirt isn't on top of me and that I get another opportunity to share with people just some jewels. You know, people, I just say I share real life stories from real life people. So I got a real story and I like to share.
Well, we love it. And I want to thank you. I appreciate you for taking the time out to come in and share them jewels, because that's exactly what In and Out is about. It's about having real life people. We know real, recognize real. For our listeners out there, we try and bring the most authentic, real stories, people who have been through something, people that are passionate about the experience that they've had. And we aim to give people a platform to share their stories in order to make an impact on others. And so I want to give you a second to tell us a little something about yourself. But first, I want to introduce my co-host, Dr. Cynthia Williams.
Yes, what a pleasure. Such a pleasure, Dr. Jackson. I'm interested. I've heard so much about you, and it's amazing to understand how women are able to be themselves after their selves have been turned in each way it could be turned. And I just applaud you for your courage and being brave enough to be sustainable in this life that we call life. And I'm just excited to have this conversation with you as well.
Thank you all for having me, and I'm excited to share.
All right. So tell us about some of the things you got going on now. What do you want me to call you? What do you want me to refer to you as, first of all?
You say Dr. Jackson.
That right, Doc. We got
You don't have to remember the rest, right? Well, anyways, I am Dr. Letitia Scott Jackson, and I am the visionary of keeping families connected. I'm a wife, a published author 4 times, a grandmother, a life coach. I say real life coach because I just tell people how it is, really, in real life. I'm a motivational speaker, musician for the church, the preacher's daughter. Ex-drug dealer, you name it. Hey, I've done everything but use drugs, drank, and had a job. But I've done a lot of stuff, But I started keeping families connected back in January of 2015 because I was wrongfully convicted. By the federal government, someone committed a fraud against my business. And I tell people all the time, we can't get caught up in what we see. People say, oh, they did this, they did that, but everybody in the world commits 3 felonies a day. It's a book. You have to look it up. And so they committed the fraud against my business, and I spent all my money fighting the case, and I won it in the Fifth Circuit Court.
Oh, did you? Wow, congratulations. How much time did you serve?
Oh, on that one, it was only 27 months.
Okay. Wait, did you do your time? Did you do your time in Texas?
Yeah, it's federal.
Okay, and that's where you live. Is that's where you're from?
No, I'm originally from Louisiana.
Louisiana. Okay. All right, dope.
My first bid, I got that bid out of Louisiana. That was for something I did. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that was way more time. But from that, I asked God, what was my purpose for sitting there and losing my money? I spending my money and going through all these court cases or whatever the case may be. And when I went to the feds the first time back in the 90s, they didn't really send people to the feds that didn't have money. You know what I'm saying? You had to have some money. You were making money. When I went back this time, it was so many people that they didn't have money. They couldn't visit their children. The caregivers were poor and busted, disgusted, disappointed. And so God showed me just as plain as day that my purpose for that time was to keep families connected. So I started providing free luxury prison trips all throughout the state of Texas. I take them like celebrities. Black SUVs, my Mercedes Benz. January will be 10 years. Not once have I ever been government funded. I'm God's grace. We do this 3 times a month, and I do it with my allowance. And that's what I do. Luxury trips, free mentorship, back to school. My husband and I would just bless 300 kids for back to school. Christmas coming up, 400 kids. Thanksgiving, 25 families. And God just keep blessing me every year to do more and more and more.
Well, that's dope. You're getting your blessings because you're blessing others. So how many? How you had children when you did time?
The first time I had 2 kids.
And you didn't have anybody bringing you your kids? Was that the genesis of the idea?
Well, the second time I had nobody to bring my kids because, mind you, my mom passed away while I was in federal prison the first time. My dad, who was a preacher, I got busted with 3 kilos of cocaine in his house, and he thought because he was the preacher that they would give him probation, and they gave him 15 years in prison. And he got out, and he lived maybe 4 years, and he passed away. Then my only son was killed in Louisiana, and that's what made me move to Texas. So I have nobody to bring my kids to school.
Oh my goodness. How old was your son?
4 daughters.
So you're a mother of 5.
Mother of 5 with 4 living.
Wow. Okay. Who's the oldest? Your son or your?
6 to the oldest. My daughter is 37 and my youngest is 24.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So your son, when he passed, how old was he?
17.
17. And that was in Louisiana?
God showed me 3 days in a row he was going to die. 3 days in a row before the day he died. And I kept saying, God, if you do this, I'm done with you. Like, I'm not playing the piano for the church no more. They already keeping me out of my talent. Listen, I'm not doing nothing else for the church, or I'm just through with you, God. And guess what? I was sitting at church on June 1st, 2008, that Sunday morning on the piano, and my son was killed in a car wreck.
Wow, that's interesting. 2006. So I don't know if to understand our background and how we're just so connected. That's amazing. First off, Eric is so profound on selecting dope people that have dope stories of transformation, resiliency, and transparency. And just the short amount of time that you've shared these things with us, I think my body has gotten the chills of these knowing, walking angels, for lack of better words. And so I went to prison in the 90s also on a drug case, and then I came home, and then my grandmother passed, and then my dad passed, and then my 17-year-old son was killed in a car accident, and that was in 2006. And it was like a week before my birthday was when the car crash happened, and then a day before my birthday I had to pull the plug. And I used to always think that it wasn't God that I was angry about. I really went to myself for my destructive decisions, right? And to hear you say you were angry with God, but the vision that he gave you for your son is the same God who gives you the vision that said, take these children to help see their parents. Take these parents, give the parents the relief, right? Because you're being that parent in jail, like, if I could just touch my babies. And then knowing how that felt, you just put yourself in the place of other mothers who, man, I got to do something about it. But that vision God dropped into you to be able to see those happy faces of both the children and the parents is super profound. And now knowing 17, 16 years later, right, that you still pushing even though you was mad at them, like we all are sometimes.
You know, When I first started, I only wanted to take children to see their parents. But now I take the family as a whole. I have a Hispanic lady. She only had 4 sons and 1 daughter. And at one point in time, up until about 8 months ago, all 4 of her sons were in 4 different prisons.
Is this something that you get a lot of cooperation with from the prison?
She's doing it for 9 years now, and we have a Mercedes van that's wrapped. And then we always rent like black vans or SUVs or whatever. So now when they see the volunteers pull up, it's like, oh, that's keeping families connected. Let them come on, you know. But I go into the prisons and I speak um, at the prisons and at the graduations and empowering men and women. So yes, I get a lot of cooperation from them.
Makes sense. You ever see that going national?
Listen, I was supposed to do my first trip in Louisiana, where I'm from, to Angola, where Steve Murder is. My mentees was murdered the week I was supposed to do that, which was last month. And so I didn't get. I do want. I get calls from Washington D.C., Atlanta, you name it, and I've even been at the point where I've actually sent money to people to go to the prison, and I'm not even there. I just tell them to take me some pictures, and if God leads me to do it, I do it. If He doesn't, I don't. But for the most part, the need is great in many states. But I'm just one person, using my allowance to do a great job that requires a great need.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's interesting. Like we here in Atlanta, we've been hosting these blending and uniting family connections once a month, where people are coming out of jail and say they had a disconnect and they're with their accountability court and things like that. And they're saying basically, I haven't seen my kids and the parents are disconnected from conception, right? It's parents who don't really want to have anything to do with the other parent, but then they recognize we're teaching them that it's not about you all, it's about the child who deserves to know you both. And so in the event of that, we're just trying to make sure that they understand that this particular thing causes so much childhood trauma in the kids, on top of us giving the trauma to them because we left them when we went to prison, right? And so people don't recognize the impact on the kids when we make the decisions. But I have to say it as a mother, I just was trying to feed my babies. I was just trying to feed these kids. I didn't know I was going to have sex and turn around and get the baby. No one thinks of that. But then when you do it and you're a young mother and you trying to figure it out, everybody don't have a platform. So to hear you say there's so many parents in jail that came poor, the caregivers poor, which makes the poverty a generational curse. Now the kid is poor, right? And so I can just see some young girl wanting to be like you, saying, I remember this lady took me to see my mama when she was in jail, or took me to see my daddy, or, my dad got to go see his daughter, and whatever that family dynamic is. The power in that from you right now is just amazing to see it unfold and where it's gonna go. You know what I mean? That's profound.
And actually, we've taken children to meet their parents for the first time. So again, like you said, and I take this little girl to see her dad, and she's like, "Oh, I like him," and it takes everything in me. You talking about somebody who used to be gangster, so I don't want to be crying. And I'm like, kids, but it's powerful. The other day, my daughter, she's 24, and she's always ripping and running it. She comes in the house and she says, Mama, this lady, she said, this girl just got out of prison, and she heard you on the prison podcast, and then you came to the prison to speak, and the girl realized that you were my mom, and she went crazy. All she wanted was an autograph book. And I said, well, where you saw it? She was like, in the inner city. I was like, okay, what's the name? And I signed the book, and she actually drove that book 30 miles back to the girl. And she said the girl was just standing there crying. I said, you should have took a picture, did a video or something. But all I try to do is show people that Like you said, even though you're trying to make money, you want to take care of your children. In this day and generation, it's no excuse. No excuse. I tell people all the time, if you're in the same situation this year, on this day, at this time that you were in last year, same day, same time, you disrespectful. Because too many opportunities, too many ways to make money, too many avenues. You're not gonna. Everybody won't be wealthy. Everybody can't be billionaires. Everybody won't be millionaires, but you can be sustainable. And took my allowance and started 13 businesses for people, kids 5 through 28. And I tell them, listen, your friend like cupcakes, baby, make you some cupcakes and sell them. Buy you some wholesale earrings and sell them. And so that has worked for me to show these kids. And then in return, it shows the parents how to make, how to respect money, how to be sustainable, not to downplay men, because my husband is my king, that's my CFO. But a lot of these women go to prison because of men.
There's no question about it.
They don't know nothing. And so they feel like I have to deal with this situation to be taken care of when all of your greatness is in you. My purpose is not your purpose. My purpose is not my husband's purpose. His purpose is not mine. So something happens to him. I don't only want to be sitting at the table to eat. I need to bring some food to the table.
Right, right. And that brings that to a question about legacy for me, right? Understanding being a mother who's lost a child, and also being in prison, and just how you just said profoundly, like there's no reason no one is not able to make multiple streams of income, right? But if the parents don't teach the generations behind them how to naturally get these multiple streams, or focus on what the legacy is, how important is that to you and your family about the legacy that you've created now to move forward?
Started business before, but let me say this, not just for my family. When I do my mentorship program, Boys in Blue and Girls Too, you can't drop your children off. Because if I teach them to save $1,000 and you don't have sense enough to pour piss out a boot, I'm wasting my time, and I don't waste time. I did too much time to waste time. So I make family come as a whole. If you don't want to come as a whole, don't bring your children, because you're talking about us taking you from poverty to purpose or productivity. We won't even say purpose. Being productive and getting out of poverty. We have one lady that was in our group, 8 kids, 2 baby daddies in prison, 3 baby daddies in prison, my king said. You're talking about teaching a kid 16 to make $10,000 selling candy out of the garage. That's the hustle in me, But these kids love me because I'm showing them that even though God has blessed me abundantly, to come home in 2013, broke, busted, and disgusted. And then by the end of 2018 to be a God-made millionaire. And I don't say this lightly. A lot of people say they're millionaires, but I always say my proof is in my pudding, because I have my tithes in my phone all the way from 2015. So I know that's what it is. But to just be humble enough to walk in a room and say, I've been where you are. I had $5 to feed my kids, and that's all I had. But now I have the Bentleys, the Maseratis, the Mercedes, all this stuff is paid for. And I never could get it being a drug dealer. So we have to do it the right way. Now, let me show you as a mother how to pour into your child, but let me help you change the trajectory of your mindset, and let's do something different. Stay in the projects, baby. I have the projects sold up. I'm selling tea cakes, brownies, cookies, whatever y'all got, whatever they want, hair weaves, whatever. Let me show you how to get out of this sad situation, because it's a sad situation.
Okay, so that's real impactful what you're saying. because I'm thinking about you, like you're teaching them and you're giving them the exposure. You're showing so many of them. You're talking about so many of these children out here that their parents are in prison, and this is what they saw growing up. So my question for you is, what was it like when you were growing up in your childhood? What was some of the things that might have led you to selling drugs and doing some of the things that you was doing? How were your parents both in your life? Your mother, your father? Tell me a little bit about that.
I had one sister biological that lived in the house, and she was younger than I am. And my dad was the preacher. He was an AME preacher. So AME preacher was really strict. And I was the musician for the church, grade 8 student, running track, playing basketball, doing all this stuff. And my dad was a broke preacher. He was broke. We don't know if you all know what AME means in the church, in these shotgun ragged houses. My babysitter's grandson, who was way older than maybe about 10 or 15 years, was a drug dealer. And he was the first person I ever saw with a Mercedes. And he in return taught me how to sell drugs. And that's where it came from. And I was 16 at the time. And to this day, I've never used drugs, never drank, never had a job. And by the time I was 21, I had been indicted so many times, it was over. You know, the feds indicted me the last time when I was 21. My offer was life in federal prison. On the day of sentencing, I had a 30-day speedy trial, and they lost the record. So I ended up getting 13 years federal boot camp, which they went away with, and that reduces your time. So instead of having to do the 13 years, I did right at 5 6 months boot camp, and then I came home on 8 years supervised release, and I did it. But my mom died while I was in prison at the age of 42.
Did they allow you to see your mom? Did they allow you to go to the funeral?
Oh yeah, I got to go to the hospital on a furlough, but I had to pay for it. And so I got to go to see her, and then when she passed away, I got to go back to the funeral, and I got to see my dad because remember, he was in state prison in Louisiana. I was in federal prison in Texas, and he taken that charge for me. And then he thought because he was a preacher that he would get probation, and they gave him 15 years. So, you know,
How much of that time did he have to do?
He didn't do it. He did 8 years on that 15.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was a mess, but God just took all of that he instilled in me that I thought the devil thought it was for my bad, but it turned out to be for my good because I can show other people that same street knowledge that I had. It was just being a business owner, wholesaling and retailing. And so I took that, and now it just helps me to stay real. I tell people all the time, I'd rather be real and rejected than fake and accepted. So you get nothing else. You get what I'm saying? And so that's all I know to do. And I do it without a circle, without an octangle, without a square, without connections. It's me, myself, my king, and God, and my children. And I tell people, God, so when I go out to bless them 200-300 children, my husband and my children and my grandchildren are there.
So your husband, you met him after your second term?
I met him right before that, which was so crazy. We'd only been married 10 months, I think. Yeah, and we had just met, so we hadn't even known each other. I don't even think a whole 2 years. But me putting him on all of my business, you know, you get married, you be like, oh, boom, put him on here. You know, that's what's real. You make it 50-50. And when I got convicted. And so he goes one way and I go another way on the same day in 2 different states. And we didn't even know we were going to get locked up on that day. And that was 2011. And we didn't see each other no more till May of 2015. And he built it, and he came home and he was like, oh, let me tell you, he's the only child, never been married, had no kids, you know, 8 years younger than I am. His biological grandmother, and I always been in church. I always, you know, he was never street. He didn't even know that I was street until we went to there, and my cousin was like, oh, you married a dope selling da-da-da-da-da. And he was like, what?
Right.
But he was like, I wouldn't have never, but too late now, we married, you know. But anyway, built a software to help people restore their namesake. And from that software, it blessed us to become part owners of 7 emergency rooms. And we have not looked back ever since. Like we're powerful together in business. He's a day trader also, and he's finance savvy, and he taught me that because being from the streets, I would spend all my money on my children, and I didn't even have a savings account. And now I understand that that's important. That your credit and your name is more important than silver and gold, and that we are here to create generational wealth for our families. So I have in place now. You know, when I died, when my dad died, he didn't leave us nothing. He didn't have nothing to leave us. And she took everything else. And so I have it set up that when something happened to me and African American people, us as a whole, we don't understand that because when people die, they want to sell plate lunches and do all this stuff. Nobody's going to do that when I die. My kids will have enough money where if they want to open up a new business, do something else, they won't have to struggle. And that's what it's about. It's about us. It's about what we leave for them.
That's right. Why did you pick Texas?
You know what? It was just not so far from Louisiana. And then at first, until I got all the way mad with God, I was still driving back to Louisiana to church because I was the musician for the church. But it was close, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just getting out of Louisiana because every time I see people, they would throw a pity party, like, oh, I feel sorry. My son and I were really close. I passed away. So I was in Texas with an air mattress. That's the testimony. An air mattress and a TV and my daughters. And we were sleeping on the floor. And now, baby, I got a housekeeper. I got personal stylists. I can do what I would be because I took them penitentiary chances all them years selling drugs and I couldn't even get a Rolex watch. Like, what the hell? So now, you know, I have a watch winder full of Rolex watches and I can do what I want to do and I don't have to answer to people. And all I want to do is bless the people that God put in my path for me to bless and show people how to get out of poverty. Because you got these people with these get rich quick schemes and they selling these courses. But baby, until you lived it and you can get out there in the mud and do it, you don't tell me I got to pay you $10,000 to teach me how to do this. I'll go take that $10,000 and buy me some wholesale fake purses.
That's dope. And I want to ask you, so you said you took these penitentiary chances. I like that phrase because it's one I use myself, and you ended up in the penitentiary. So what type of lessons did you learn, or what type of mindset change from the time that you first went in, from the first day? Number one, take us to your mindset when your first day in, because you know we always remember the first day in, and we remember the first day out.
Oh, I was cool. I was crazy. My nickname is Chucky. That's been my name since I was born. My daddy wanted me to be a boy, so everybody that knows me from the streets call me Chucky or Chuck. The profession was Letitia, the new people in my life, you know. But I went in there and I was arrogant because I was a drug dealer and I thought I knew everything and I'm turning flips off the top bunk. I mean, I was young and crazy and, you know, I fight in the minute and, you know, I was just arrogant. But it was a chaplain that was there. She made me humble myself. And that boot camp is what broke me because nobody could tell me nothing. But you're talking about going into Houston, in the Sam Houston forest with a machete. Every day, 6 days a week, cut trees with a machete. You couldn't kill the snakes. Snakes run off the feet. If you kill the snakes, you get another charge. And I called my mama one day. I said, "Oh, I'm quit." Before she died, I said, "Oh, baby, I'm not doing this." She said, and I've never disrespected my parents like we would, you know, the preacher's kids. But I said, "Mama, I cannot do this." She said, "You a gangster and you scared of a snake?" I said, "Baby, I'm scared out." What you mean? She said, "But if you quit, because if I'd have quit, I would have had to do the whole 13 years. She said, "Don't call my house no more. Because you a gangster and you scared." And she hung up in my face. I looked at the phone like, do that, this woman crazy, right? But guess what? She died at the end of my boot camp sentence. I was 2 weeks out before she died.
I would never say, well, it's a good thing people need to go to prison, but at the same time, I know from a negative experience, something positive could come out of it. However, we got to all make that determination. Like when we end up in any negative situation, but we talking about prison, because everybody here been to prison before. When I went to prison, I made a determination that I wanted to come out. I was either going to be bitter or better. And I said, you know what, when I come out, I'm going to be better. And it sounds like you made that same type of determination. So this time that you're talking about, you did the boot camp, you did 13 months, right, in the boot camp?
No, boot camp was 6 months only, but it was the worst 6 months of my life.
Okay, but then after that, you still ended up going to prison, right?
No, I went to prison first, and then you go to boot camp. So you got to do 5 years or 4 months, 4 years and 6 months. You go to the boot camp. That's the end of your 5 years. Now they started the 8-year supervision.
So it was the boot camp. It was the boot camp more than the actual experience in prison that made you. I'm trying to figure out what was it that made that change where you was like, yo, I ain't doing this no more. I ain't going back to prison.
Boot camp was that, but just being away from my children because I was from Louisiana. My mom, after my dad took my charge, she divorced him. She said he loved me more than he loved her, and she married a deacon. And he didn't really have no money. So I couldn't really see my kids maybe once every, you talking about 5 years, and I might have saw my kids once or twice a year. And so I was just like, I'm done with this. And then my judge, he really helped me make my mind up because he said to me, and I don't know if you know this, federal judges don't retire out of bounds. They die out of bounds. So when they took me from Texas back to Louisiana in front of my same judge that I went in front of 21. So that judge told me, he said, if you ever come back before me, because they knew that when my dad took the charge, those were my drugs, and I got off of that. Then I had got off of some other stuff that I'd done. And so he told me, he said, if you come back before me for any kind of drugs, you're getting life. So I didn't want that. I was done with it. I was like, I could be stuck with my hands,
Yeah, that's so crazy. That's a similar story to mine. When they ended up doing 15 months, but I was looking at 40. And the judge said the same thing when my grandmother and everybody testified for me on my behalf and my character. And then my grandmother put her house up and they extradited me back and forth, just kind of like the area I could do a property bond on. They didn't want me to do it, so they sent me to an area I didn't have no property. But his last words was, do not come back in my courtroom. I'm telling you, I see that you just came outside and met you somebody that put you in a position as a girl to be attached to the streets, and your family showing me that they didn't show you that. And they're also showing me that you put yourself in by harm's way, so you got to start not being a follower. And I've always heard those words. And a couple of years back, in my adult years, he died. And I remember when I saw his face on the TV that he died, I was like, wow, that judge died. But I learned from that. I learned from him telling me, basically, you more worthy than to be in my courtroom. So you need to know that the value of the person I see you as, just from hearing these people exploit your character, this not even you, and I need you to see that. So the humbling comes in when you find yourself the worth of saying, I'm bigger than this, right? And then just to lose a child after that, I kept saying, dang, I don't know with the drugs who overdosed and died. I don't know if anybody was, molested from the drugs or got really messed up from the drugs. And I didn't care at the time, right? Because I was just thinking about the money. But as a young girl, you don't never balance the life to the money. You just don't. You thinking, let me just get these drugs off. But when you lose a child, the first thing you think about is, dang, I didn't even value other people's lives. So I couldn't be angry with God,
But that makes sense. But I just was mad because I prayed and asked God not to let him die. When God showed me, I said, listen, don't let him die. Let me die, because I've done what I thought I always wanted to do, with the exception of obtaining things or attaining things. But God, I can go right now and let my baby stay here and I'll be okay. And you know what? My bishop woke me up one time. It brought to my attention. I said, woke me up intellectually and emotionally. And he said, listen, even if you would have been in the truck with Al, he was in my truck. He said, Al was going to die and you were going to live because it was predestined before the beginning of time, because it was two other kids in the truck with him. And when their parents came to the hospital, me being Chucky, not Letitia, right? I wasn't a saved sinner that day. I was a silly one. And I said, well, why y'all kids didn't die? Why my son?
I fired mine too, girl. I fired mine too. I said, they got to be cold. First of all, we probably colder than at telling our story than anybody else could, first off, right? And I get that they just use a Rolodex.
No, they told me I need to tell my king to buy me a Nissan because people don't like me because I drive a Bentley. Guess what I told them? If they like me driving a Bentley, baby, they won't like me pulling up on a motorcycle because I'm not gonna change. I'm the same person in a Walmart sweatsuit as I am in a Gucci sweatsuit. I'm the same person as I am in the Nissan. So if you don't like me, kick rocks because I didn't come here. It don't make sense because people don't like you, so they want you to give them the foolery and the fakery. And I don't do that.
But that's funny because Eric and I talk about it all the time. I think what people don't like is the resiliency and transparency they don't have the courage to have. And when you meet people who, like all of the successful people that Eric has interviewed on In and Out, just from them saying, hey, this is who I was before prison. This is what prison did to me. This is who I am now. That takes courage. And that's why it's not a whole lot of people who do it, right?
Don't call me with the asking me about, oh, my husband, my boyfriend. No, my boyfriend cheating on me and I'm paying all the bills. Girl, you are checking with the devil and you want God to pay the rent. I tell them just like that, it's not going to happen. You're going to get evicted. You're not going to never in life because you can't do that. You got to have, again, like you said, you got to be real with people and you just got to tell them straightforward. If God can't pay you with $2, you're not getting 20. So don't be at 20. You don't change the oil in the Honda, you can't get a Mercedes. You're not trustworthy. You're a whoremonger, you're not getting a king or a queen because you're not in position. And that's what it is. And you wonder why every time you get paid, you got to struggle to get paid again because you're disrespectful. You don't respect what God blesses you with. And so people see me, I don't dumb my blessings down no more. I used to because it used to hurt my feelings because I want to go out. I want to be Chucky and be like, why are you jealous? Why are you hating? Why are you being covetous? I can't drive my Bentley to this event because they're going to get mad. I can't drive my Maserati to hell with people. Let me tell you about people. They will help you get to hell quick, but they can't help you get to... So I'm through it. I don't about people no more, baby. I move when God say move. And if I want to pull up on a motorcycle, I'm going to pull up and I'm going to drop them God that give you some godly game. And game up means elevation. I give you the game, you apply it to your life. And if you don't elevate, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Give me the acronym for game again from you.
Game applied means elevation.
There you go. Game applied means elevation. Yeah, that's dope.
Coach for the high schools in Frisco where I live, and I get to talk to all the athletes after they practices during the summer. And sometimes it's 200, sometimes it's 300-400 people. And I go in there and I tell them this. I'm going to give you some godly game. It's hot as hell. Y'all just got to do working out. Hell hotter than this. But even in sports, if you take the game and apply it to your situation, that's how you get to the pros. But if you have, you can't do nothing without godly principles. So again, I trust you with the $2. I bless you with the 20. Integrity is not what you do when people looking at you. It's what you do around you. So that's teaching. I'm big on that. Like,
tell me about mentoring. How important was mentoring for you? Did you have mentors before you went to prison for you to now have the prison program and then have the mentoring program? So yeah, expunge on that for us.
Never had no mentors, nothing but drug dealers and my homeboy telling me, girl, you need somebody just as smart as you so you can do more and more and more. But my knowledge came from me and listening to different people like Dr. Miles Monroe, reading scriptures and studying the Bible because I grew up in church, but I never knew the Bible. I never knew the principles. I tell people all the time, everything that we need to be successful in this life is in the book of Proverbs.
Right. Especially for the women.
I just said, you know what? I'm going to start teaching this to other people because, again, we don't know what we don't know. And if a parent is struggling and that's all they ever saw.
Okay, when you said you're going to start giving this game to other people, did you make that determination when you was in prison, when you came home? Like, what was your game plan when you came home?
When I came home, it was to get my kids back because I lost my kids. So they were in Louisiana. My youngest daughter was out the chain. The cutest thing you ever want to see, but she done made world star hip hop. She fighting. She got juvenile life. She was angry because I was gone. Yeah, so my thing was to get my daughters and get them straight. And so once that, make sure my marriage good, make sure my children good, and to get me some money.
So you decided you was gonna do that after you came home, or when you were still in there? Did you say?
My husband was like, girl, you better legalize this because you're gonna get in trouble. And I tell people all the time, God has a weird sense of humor because I never knew what a 501c3 was. I'm not a beggar. I don't ask people for stuff. I make it happen. But I didn't find out what the 501c3 was until almost 6 or 7 months after I had been doing the trips. And I was renting cars from Enterprise. Still to this day, I rent the black SUVs from them, even though I have my van. But I had made my mind up because I was talking to these people, going back and forth to these prisons, and these children who got these mamas in prison. And she told me my mama been in prison behind 3 different men and 3 different times. And so now it's like, let me give her some game because she tripping.
But not knowing that you needed some of the game from the 501c3 to get the grants, but we pave our own lane when they don't want to give them to us. Like, we ain't waiting on no grants to do the work.
Never received not one grant. Everybody I paid to do grants, they beat me out my money. I said to hell with it. My husband gives me his 10%, and I use that 10% to bless other people. I don't even worry about it no more. Whatever God's got for me, he gonna do it. But guess what? Some businesses don't last 9 weeks. Here I am 9 years later, and I wake up in the morning and go buy 200 baskets, and I'm out in the projects. You can go on my Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. About 3-4 months ago, I went and bought 350 pair of Crocs and gave them away. I'm sitting on the back of my Bentley in the projects giving out shoes because I want somebody to do for me. I mean, I do for other people what I wish someone would have done for me and my children.
Yep.
I wrote, when I first got to prison, I didn't know I was going to prison that day, but my husband, for some reason, he went to see his federal PO and they lock him up in Texas. I go to Louisiana, I get locked up October the 6th, 2011. My daughter's in school. But for some reason that morning, he left a lot of money on the dresser.
You too.
That money lasted me till I got out of prison. So let me tell you what happened. I wrote all of the prominent churches in Texas, in Dallas, and I started the letter with, I don't need your money. I need somebody to pick my daughters up and take them to church so that they won't be exposed to premarital sex, marijuana, drugs, this, that, and the third. Do you know not one church wrote me back?
Wow.
That's why my first book is titled Where the Real Church Folks At. I performed that play. Little Nas X's dad is the gospel singer. He came and sung in the play. Luther Barnes participated in the play. Shirley Caesar grandson. I wrote this play in 1 week. I turned the book into a play to show people how fake people are in the church.
Yeah, you gotta like sift through them like the grapes at the store. You get the bunch of grapes. You want to see which one ain't bad. You gotta grab one. But you know what's so profound is being able to keep doing what you're doing when it seems like the faith in you is so strong, but the portion of people disappointing you through your vision. It takes so much to literally feel like these people have disappointed me, but you kept going. So adversity in the midst of your struggle and adversity from prison, what part of that made you say, despite everyone that's disappointed me, what was your factor for you that says, but I can't quit?
Just to show them, because a lot of people count out for me. I was gone. They thought I was gone for life this second time too. And when I came back, I'm gonna tell you this, and I say this, with a humble spirit. I pass everybody up that ever got it. You know what I'm saying? I don't I don't boast about it. Everybody that meets me, the first thing they say, "You one of the most humble people we ever met." Because when I walk in the room, I don't go in there like, "Oh, I'm this millionaire and I got this and I got that." I go in there like, "What can I do to help you?"
Right. Right.
Not being bitter, baby, but being about my father's business and getting it done and showing people that what God did for me, yeah, you counted me out, but my comeback was greater than my setback. So now let me show you that you're talking to somebody who once upon a time didn't even have a place to stay and I was sleeping in the car. And now let me help you get to another level in life. All you got to do is listen. And I have an acronym for that one if you want it. It's learning, intellectual, sound teaching, evolving now. I don't care what you did 20 years ago. What are you doing right now?
That's right.
Learning, intellectual, sound, teaching,
Evolving
now. I love it.
I love it. I love it.
So listen, I know I got distracted a little bit. I done made it to Louisiana, and one of my mentees came to college here at Southern University, and he just saw my car because nobody has a car like this one, right? And he about to have a wreck. Just oh, Miss, let's go, Dr. Jackson. My husband had to tell him she doing a podcast. Man. He done got all. But he was one. I helped him get his first debit card, helped him start a t-shirt business. His mom was the one that had the 8 kids. And here I am in Louisiana, and we live in Texas. And he just found him on Facebook posting me and my husband and talking about how we were, because they lived in the hood in Fort Worth, Stop 6. I've never been over there, but it was the worst of the worst, and he could have been.
But you know what? This was so profound. We this hour ain't enough for us. I'm tell you this now, right? We got to get you in person. So y'all get prepared. You and your husband. We want both of y'all. So we got to prepare so we can get y'all here, or we can come there. However we need to do it. But we want a personal sit down. I just want to first just say thank you for not giving up on God. Thank you. Understanding that we're angel moms, right? Everybody won't ever be an angel mom or dad, right? But I love that he gave it to me. And some days I don't want to know no of y'all. I don't want to know none of y'all, and I want my baby back. That happens often. But it also lets me know that it's people in the world that when I wake up, I shake the ground so cold, and I see he gave you that same tenacity. And I just want to tell you that since I see you, I saw you challenged through all of those things, that just hearing it and not even walking in your shoes, that when we are women, we don't even have a clue that these things will fall on our shoulders, but staying grounded, knowing that God didn't forget about us. He didn't quit on us, even when it felt like I couldn't even breathe again. So it's just amazing to know you and meet you and hear your profound story. And I didn't even know that your husband, I'm thinking you came home and met this Prince Charming, baby. That's just amazing.
He's quiet, but he is the GOAT. When I tell you to build a software out of algorithms and binary numbers, and he doesn't have a website, business card. When I go places, people like, bring your husband up, and he just throw his hand up. You know, I'm supporting my queen. I'm her CFO, but to build a software to help us become God-made millionaires, like people out, you see people and you say they're really blessed, they got it going on. But I tell people all the time, don't be deceived by what you see, because let me tell you, everybody that look like they're blessed, they just benefited. And see, it's a big difference benefited than being abundantly blessed. What I mean when I say that is, somebody asked me the other day on an interview, what do I mean? This was 2 days ago. I was interviewed by some TV show, and they say, what do you mean by that? I said, let me tell you something. Let the government say right now, everybody in Georgia got to move out of Georgia and go to Florida. Do you have enough money in your savings to move and become? That's being abundantly blessed, because I'm finance savvy enough to know that I need at least 6 months of savings to sustain. But research says 92% of Americans don't even have $1,000 in savings.
You've been a blessing to us and all the listeners, man. I appreciate your time so much. Just like you hit on so many different points. I'm just listening to you build, listening to you bless us like you bless so many other people. You know the scripture talks about the showy display of things and how people get fascinated by what people show them. But make no doubt about it, we already know that you the real, you might have all of the material things and all of the wealth, but nobody really knows that the path that you walk. We know that people try and make snap judgments on what they see, but it's obvious to me, as I'm sure it's obvious to all the listeners, and it's obvious to Dr. Cynthia, you the real deal, Doc. You the real deal. So it don't matter what you show because you got the essence and it's within your core, and you giving it to the people. That's why I know you came and you messed with us because we just trying to do real things right here in and out because we trying to get them real blessings like you've been doing.
Real is rare, and I thank you all for the opportunity. And I'm just grateful. I'm getting ready to do a movie. I just finished my script. I wrote my own script. It's called Arrested by Grace. So it's a docu-series. It's going to end where my son gets killed, and then it'll start over where I meet how we go back to prison, and how the people see y'all ain't heard nothing, how I got kidnapped by the Puerto Ricans and my dad got kidnapped. It's a whole lot of stuff that I done been through that people think, is she that crazy for real? Somebody asked me the other day, you never done drugs? I said, baby, if I'd have done drugs, it'd be a whole bunch of dead folks and I would be in jail. Murder, not drugs. I was already crazy without the drugs and I didn't need them. But I thank God that I did not die. This is the most powerful part of this podcast. I did not die a silly sinner because I was silly. Now I'm a sinner. And the song that I'm about to go into this recording studio and do is called Saved by Grace, that I wrote when I was 16 years old.
Wow. Dope.
Dope.
That's why I'm in Louisiana today to record that song.
I appreciate you for telling me that. I wanted to ask, but I was like, well, she'll share if she wants to ask. She said she's going to Louisiana, but we didn't know what you was going there for. Well, that's dope. Let us know however we can add value. We definitely want to sit down and kick it and spend some more time, meet you in person. We look forward to that. Have a part 2 because the feed honestly has been going in and out, so it's kind of hard on the audio.
I traveled so much. I just got back from Arizona filming for something last week in New Jersey. My grandson's model at the New Day Associates event. I think the Brunner Brothers was part of their sponsors. But that's what I do. Because my grandsons, they get booked to teach other little kids how to do vision boards and how to read and how to invest their money. And they tell you how to respect your parents. These are 89, the Boss Brothers. You got to Google them. They're 89 years old. And I'll email you some stuff, Eric, on them. And so that's what we do. We travel as a package. They're published authors. I'm published author. They're on their second book, got their first song. So, that's what it's about.
That's what it is about. You're
That's
all
dope.
about
That's dope
legacy.
as hell. So give us, just tell the listeners where they can find you. I know you already told us some of the things that you got coming, but just take a couple minutes to bring us on out because I know you're about to get out of here.
Okay, so listen, you can find me on all social media platforms, keeping families connected. Facebook is where I get the most popping, dropping, stopping, and all of that. It's Letitia Scott, not Letitia Scott Jackson, but Letitia Scott. You can Google Dr. Letitia Scott Jackson. Everything about me is there. All of my events, the stuff I do in the community, everything. Real is rare. You can find me there. But I'm saying I want to leave somebody with this on the day because a lot of people think life is so complicated, but it's simple. It's really simple. You have to do something you've never done to get that you've never had. And when you get that you've never had, God may just bless you with that you're desiring. But you're going to have to do something to get something. Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Don't sit on your success because a lot of people, they think that you have to start big. No, you can start in your house. Your kids' friends like cupsicles, make cupsicles and let your kids sell them. Create the entrepreneurship in your children.
We love it. We love it. Listen, one last time, I want to thank you again. It's so appreciated. We know you're doing a lot of things, but you took the time to spend it here with us. Y'all know where y'all can find us. Man, y'all had a real gift today by Dr. Letitia Scott Jackson. This woman is profound. She's dynamic. She's dope. She's been through it. She's been giving y'all so much game. I hope y'all was all taking it in. Go back down. Write those acronyms down. I'm going to do the same thing. I remember game. I can't remember exactly what the exact acronym is, but yo, you the truth, real, recognize real. And a little thing that I like to say, if you want to be different, you got to be different. We really appreciate you. Y'all know where to find us. In and Out Podcast by Eric Gerald. That's INNOUT by Eric Gerald. You can find us on all forms of social media. Y'all check us out. Like, comment, follow back, subscribe. YouTube, we all over the place. But y'all know y'all got to keep looking for Dr. Letitia Scott because she gave y'all the real. She gave it to y'all today, y'all.
Pleasure meeting you guys, and thank you both. And I look forward to connecting with you in person as well as doing this podcast while I'm not in the car, right? But to God be the glory. I hope it's something that I've said that people can take and apply to their lives and see that, hey, it's a better way out. I don't have to stay where I am. So listen, you all have a great, blessed rest of your day, and I'll send you something on the Boss Brothers, and I look forward to hearing from you all again.
Absolutely.
Look forward to
Thank
it. Peace.
you.
We appreciate y'all for tuning in, and now we're out.